Hey guys, this is Emma Vigeling with TYT Politics. I'm here with James Thompson, who is running for Congress in Kansas's 4th District. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great today. It's a great day to be a Democrat in this country right now.
Well, last night, obviously, we saw the historic win with Doug Jones, so I'm feeling pretty good too.
I am I am too. It's Alabama. I was just way to go. Thank you.
I know. So anyway, you ran in the 2017 special election and you turned that district purple, which is unheard of because it was an over 20-point gap, and you closed it to around 6 points, and you had like 2 months to do it around. And that's when the Democratic Party was led by a candidate in Hillary Clinton who did not generate a lot of enthusiasm. Now you're running with real infrastructure kind of behind you, with a lot of momentum, a lot of planning going into 2018. So it seems like the cards are in your favor. Can you talk about what's different about this race as opposed to the last time?
Well, you mentioned some of it. I mean, this time around, we've got definitely momentum. Doug Jones' win yesterday was a huge victory for us here in Kansas. We immediately started seeing people just getting excited and the enthusiasm here in Kansas. But the other thing, though, too, is that, like you said, we do have more of an infrastructure. I was fortunate enough to be selected as a Justice Democrat. They're a wonderful organization and really helping us out a lot. The DNC and D-Trip, they are still absent. We haven't seen them.
Really?
So, yeah.
I can't believe it.
It kind of cracks me up because the Koch political report changed the rating for both the 3rd district and the 2nd district in Kansas based off of my race, but then they didn't change our race, which is insane to me because we have a lot of momentum here. And I've tried to explain, you mentioned Hillary Clinton. Secretary Clinton was not very popular here. It's just the only way to put it. Bernie Sanders beat her 2-1 in the primary. Trump was not popular here. He got beat 2-1 by Ted Cruz in the primary. So we knew that we had an opportunity in 2017, and I think that if we got the same kind of support that was given to later candidates, we might have been able to flip this district then, and maybe even led into something better for both Quist and Parnell as well. But in 2018, we're going to essentially follow the same plan that we had before as far as just hammering ground game. We saw that in Doug Jones' race. They really hammered their ground game out there. They really got out the vote, and that made a huge amount of difference for them, and we're going to be doing the same thing here.
So Kansas is in a unique situation because obviously the budget crisis in your state is horrific. Honestly, I mean, it's a test for libertarian politics and just deregulation and giving tax breaks to the wealthy. It goes to show that it's just not viable. Do you think that kind of anger about those tax giveaways is fueling your popularity in your campaign?
Definitely, very much so. Right? The people here in Kansas are really tired of ultra-conservative politics that we saw under Brownback. As you mentioned, they destroyed our economy with the tax cuts that just gave money to the rich with this idea of, that's just going to be this, quote, boost of adrenaline to our economy. Instead, it was more like a shot of Valium. It just really it really destroyed the economy here. And then at that point, they started cutting social programs to the bone. They were robbing Peter to pay Paul through our highway funds, et cetera. So the tax plan that got pushed by the Koch brothers here and then now on a national level is going to do the same thing to the American economy. The people here have been hurt by it, so they are very much coming over to our side because they're tired of the tax plan. They're tired of seeing a lack of health care in the rural communities. It's all the way around. People are starting to kind of realize that, hey, wait a minute, the promises made by the Trump administration, the Brownback administration, and my opponent Ron Estes are nothing but hot air. So.
Well, I'm glad you brought up your opponent because Ron Estes is one of the biggest Koch brothers stooges in the history of Koch brothers stooges, and there are a lot of Koch brothers stooges. I know his first vote after you were defeated by him was to repeal the Affordable Care Act, even though a majority of Kansas residents, don't want the Affordable Care Act repealed. I mean, people see Kansas as a red state, but the Affordable Care Act was popular when you broke it down provision by provision. Now, you said that you're open to Medicare for all, but haven't full-throatedly supported yet. I don't really know what your constituents feel about it, but a majority of Americans want Medicare for all. So what are your thoughts on that, and why not full-fledged support?
Well, I have a full-fledged support for it. The issue is, how do we get there? Right now we have a lot of people that already have insurance contracts with their employer, et cetera. Unions, for example, they've negotiated out contracts. And I believe that we need to make sure that we have a public option to move over to a Medicare for all. I think that once there's a public option that allows people to see the difference between public and private insurance, they're going to realize that it's going to be better for them. And it also forces the public or the private insurance companies to compete at that point. And I think in the end will show us that Medicare for all, a single payer system, is going to be the way to go. It's just, I think that jumping straight into a single payer system is going to be a bad way to go about it, because I think a lot of people do have contracts negotiated out, et cetera. And I think that if somebody has insurance that they like, they should be able to keep it, at least until we've got a good public option in place. But we need to make sure that there's health care for everybody else out there, that they have access to it.
So you're a supporter of the public option as a kind of stepping stone, essentially.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I think the public option is a path to Medicare for all.
Got it. So you're a civil rights attorney in Wichita, so I'm assuming you're a Shockers fan. That's my mainstream media fluff question.
I am a huge Shocker fan.
Okay.
So I love my Shocks. So.
But anyway, you also served as an infantryman in the Army, and I found there to be this kind of interesting dichotomy, because this past year we've heard a lot of people conflate protesting and not standing for the national anthem with respect for our troops, when it's just that it's a civil right to peacefully protest ensured by our Constitution. I know this doesn't directly affect your constituents, but I just think it's an interesting dichotomy that you're a civil rights attorney and also were in the Army, so you're, I think, very primed to speak on this particular issue. I just think, especially an issue as important as police brutality, protesting it peacefully is as American as it gets.
My thought on it is very simple. I signed on a dotted line and swore to protect the Constitution of the United States. I did it once as an infantryman, once when I became an attorney. And if we're not going to allow somebody to peacefully protest, then what in the hell was the point of me serving in the first place? We had people that have fought and died for those rights, and they deserve the ability to exercise their rights under the Constitution. That's the whole point of serving in the military, in my opinion. So I support the players' right to do so peacefully. I was really impressed, actually, with Colin's decision to sit down with the Navy SEAL, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but who had said, look, sitting down and just sitting there is kind of disrespectful. What can we do to do something a little different? And he said, well, kneeling would be a good way to do it. And I thought that was a good compromise. I support the Constitution, and I think it's absurd that we're making such a huge deal out of people simply exercising rights that people have fought and died for. So.
Yeah, so a little off topic, but it was interested in your thoughts. Yeah. I also see that you support a pathway to citizenship, and you are a supporter of the DACA program. As a progressive, that doesn't shock me, but I'm curious what your pathway would look like.
Well, I think that the first thing that we need to do is get something passed through Congress immediately to make sure that we preserve the Dreamers and make sure that they aren't being deported. I think that if somebody has served their country, that should be immediate citizenship. It hurts me as a former soldier to see people that have served our country being deported. It's unforgivable, in my opinion. So making sure that those people have the ability to become citizens. And I think that the people that are already here, we need to just develop a quick and easy path to citizenship. They're already here. They've been here. They're our neighbors. We go to church with them. They go to school with us. Stop wasting all of this time and money and effort on trying to deport them and cause this huge division. Let's just get back to the basics of being good human beings and recognizing that these people came here for a better life, and stop trying to deny them that right, and just get back to being what America's about, which is a diverse culture.
So, as a Justice Democrat, the platform of being a part of that organization is that you don't take any corporate money. I think something like 89% of Americans think that Congress serves their donors more than they serve their constituents, which is absolutely accurate. I think in a lot of cases, unfortunately, can you talk a little bit about why you chose not to take any corporate money and how that informs your positions on a variety of matters?
I got inspired to run for office and to get involved in politics because of Bernie Sanders, and that was one of the things that really impressed me about him and his campaign, was that he was not running to help out big corporations. He was running off of small donations from individuals and trying to represent people. So when I ran in 2017, that was a big part of what I wanted to do as well, and that's another big part of our campaign for 2018. And as you said, the Justice Democrats. We see, I mean, particularly here in the 4th District of Kansas, where we have the Koch brothers, we see firsthand the effect of corporate money on politics and how it distorts the political arena and becomes a representation for just corporations instead of the people. You mentioned that healthcare, that we have a majority of Americans that want the ACA and want to get it fixed, and want Medicare for all, but yet we continue to see Republicans trying to destroy it. I mean, if they had spent as much time trying to fix it as they have trying to destroy it, we'd probably have a phenomenal healthcare program at this point. Corporations in America are not human beings, and we need to end Citizens United. We need to fix that either through a constitutional amendment or just cutting the legs out from under that ruling, because money in politics just leads to politicians being political whores, and they need to stop. I mean, we need to stop selling out to the highest bidder. We need to have people that represent the people in their district.
So lastly, I couldn't agree more. But, a lot of people look at the NRA as an organization that has bought politicians into not doing what the people want. So, for example, there's more than one mass shooting on average every day in America after Sandy Hook. 90% of Americans wanted universal background checks on people purchasing firearms, but we couldn't get it through. I think it's a little more complicated because there's also cultural reasons behind why people cling to their guns. So I think that a universal background check is a no-brainer, but I see you're also a defender of the Second Amendment, and
I am.
And I know that that's obviously you're representing your constituents. I understand that, but do you support that idea, or an assault weapons ban, or any of those things?
Okay. As a civil rights attorney, my job is to protect the Constitution. The Second Amendment, of course, is part of the Constitution. Now, I do not believe that the Second Amendment and reasonable restrictions are inconsistent or mutually exclusive. The law on it says that reasonable restrictions are allowed. So I believe universal background checks. Again, it's a no-brainer, like you said. There's no reason we shouldn't do that. Having reasonable safety restrictions in place, no reason we shouldn't do that. The NRA has gone so far to the right that they're not even listening to their own people. I have a lot of friends of mine here that are NRA members, but believe in all the things that we just talked about. Now, do I believe in a assault weapons ban? No, I don't. I don't think an assault weapons ban on a national level is appropriate. I believe that we need to leave that to the states. I think that here in Kansas, we don't have the same issues as, say, Chicago or maybe California. If California wants to ban those, and that should be a state issue, that they're allowed to have reasonable restrictions. All-out bans, I don't like. I also don't like it when they go the other way. Right now, we're seeing this national reciprocity where there is no real standard in place for concealed carry. Here in Kansas, when concealed carry was passed, you had to have a license. And then they said, oh, well, no, we're just going to do away with the licensing process where you had to go through safety classes, et cetera. And we're going to go to just anybody can carry. And I think that's ridiculous. I think that it's unsafe for our police officers. I think it's unsafe for citizens in general when people that don't know how to use a weapon are going out and buying guns and concealing and carrying. So I don't think that we should just have this blanket ban or a blanket, hey, you can do anything you want.
So it is really just about where you draw the line, right? So we do have reasonable restrictions on firearms in the sense that we can't own tanks or bazookas. Why draw the line? Why say that still states should be able to determine whether or not they have assault weapons ban just based on the fact that we've had these multiple horrific mass shootings and it could be in anyone's backyard?
Well, I think that with those kinds of weapons, we need to make sure that there are, again, reasonable. There are no reasonable restrictions in place really for buying weapons like that. I think that requiring somebody to go through safety classes, making sure that the background checks do include people that have had some kind of a domestic violence charge, that are in the military, or that have had some kind of a mental health determination by courts. When Trump first got into office, they took 75,000 people out of the system that had been judged in need of a guardianship or conservatorship. If a court has determined that you need a guardianship or conservatorship, then you probably don't need to be owning weapons that you can go out and use. So I think that we have to sit down and start having reasonable conversations about this, making sure that we protect the Second Amendment, but recognizing that we do have a problem. Just saying, well, mental health, we need to address mental health issues. Every country in the world has mental health problems. They don't have the same kind of shooting issues that we do. So being pro-Second Amendment does not mean that we can't sit down and have a reasonable discussion and figure out what kind of restrictions we can get into place to help stop these shootings. Part of that's going to be holding people responsible that allow their guns to be taken by somebody or used by somebody for any kind of a shooting, whether it's a mass shooting or not. You should have requirements on how to store them, et cetera. There's lots of things that can be done. I think that a lot of people here in Kansas that are avid gun owners like myself that are going to find reasonable and common sense that the NRA doesn't support. So.
All right. Thank you so much. It was great. We went a little over, but I think it was a great discussion. So.
Well, hey, the one thing I would ask you to do is make sure you tell people to go to our website and support us out here and in this red district. If people adopt our red district here at votejamesthompson.com, that'll go a long way towards helping us flip this district in 2018.
That link will be in the description box below once this goes up. So thank you so much for speaking with me, and I wish you the best of luck. Let's take that Koch brother dude down.
Hey, I love it. Thank you so much. And again, go Alabama. Thank you so much, Alabama and Doug Jones.
Yep.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.